I started in Texas, Louisiana, and I really got into like jazz when I was 13 or 14 years old. And I started taking Downbeat magazine. And this funny record came out as a cutout inside the Downbeat, and it was like a single, an RPM, 45, but it was floppy. You remember those things? All right, so I tore it out, put it on, and it was Herbie Hancock playing Actual Proof. And it was like, holy cow, what is this thing, man? And I'm sure I'd heard Rhodes because of Stevie and pop music, and I don't think I was advanced enough to check out like Miles in the Sky or Bitches Brew at that point. I hadn't got to that point, but I heard that, and it was. They told me, and then I think it was a Rhodes promo, I believe, and then the next page was this picture of this beautiful instrument, and I was like, it just totally blew my mind. So maybe a year or two later, I'm in high school. We moved out to California for 1 year. And we just rented a place, no piano. So my dad surprised me with the stage piano. I guess my first kind of quote unquote kind of touring gig was with Sergio Mendes, and this was early '80s, and he started using a second keyboard player. He needed somebody to play synths and stuff. So I got the gig. And went everywhere with him, and got to record with Yvonne Lins with him, and I kind of really learned a lot. He mentored me, turned me on to Gilberto Gil and Yvonne Lins, and all that great music. And of course, he played Rhodes most of the time. And then after a few years of that, I got a call to work with Freddie Hubbard, and I worked with Freddie off and on for about 8 or 9 years until he kind of stopped playing. And that was kind of that's like my master's program. Actually, college too. I didn't go to college, so that was my college education, Sometime in the 80s, the DX7 thing came in, and it kind of really pushed the Rhodes aside in music. And I played a lot of those records like that and a lot of those gigs. I didn't like it because it didn't feel like a real instrument the way he played it. The sound was cool for a while, but people were getting rid of the Rhodeses, right? So until about, would you say 15 years ago maybe, all of a sudden hip hop came in. Hip hop kind of saved the Rhodes, and so I dusted it off, and guys would say, okay, they'd call me for record date and said, bring your stuff, and I said, well, can I bring the Rhodes? Because that was the new thing again. So I started bringing it out again. And also in the mid-'90s, I got a call to work with Steely Dan. And I played Rhodes almost the whole set, and we carried 2 with us on tour, just in case. Well, and Donald had great Rhodes. They were really sweet. Actually, this model, but 88, whatever this is. And so yeah, it just was Rhodes back. It was back. Everybody was playing it again. I'd done a lot of recording for Walter Becker when he was producing records before they got back together, and actually I was working on Ricky Lee Jones' Flying Cowboys when Miles called, and so I got back to town and told Walter and these guys, and they said, well, you got to take the gig, So I left that project, and I guess he was kind of impressed or whatever about that, and he found me a record deal. So he produced my first 2 records, Cauldron and Change the Heart. Must have been in the mid '80s or so. I was in the I was a member. I was a NARAS member, a Grammy member, and I got a call from Angela, who ran the office then, saying that they were going to put a little party together for Harold because he was in a home. It was a birthday party, so I get there. And it was Joe Zawinul, Horace Silver, Mike Boddicker, Mike Lang, me, Chick. There's a picture around somewhere of this. And we all sat around, and they all told great road stories and how they met Harold and came along. And Harold was not feeling great, but, in good spirits. And I told him my story, kind of like I just told you guys, and he said, well, that's what it was built for, wasn't necessarily built for the glitzy artists. You know, it was built for people that didn't have room for a piano, and you know, it wasn't really built for what it ended up becoming. You know, it was a tool to teach vets coming home from World War II, you know, how to play piano. Therapy.